Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. I am Billy Embody coming at you on this Thursday. We are going to talk much more about SMU Cincinnati on Friday when we drop our preview podcast that morning. Might be up Thursday afternoon. We are going to record with Brandon Sejo up in Cincinnati to get a boots on the ground kind of feel for how the Bearcats look this season. But I do want to get with you guys. Told you I wanted to share some thoughts on the SMU basketball team after we had media day with the coaching staff and the players last week. Might even be 2 weeks ago now. But and then also kind of give some impressions on where the team's headed. They did just have a secret scrimmage against Oklahoma State over the weekend. And look, information is always hard to get out of these scrimmages. And right now, I don't really have too many takeaways from it because the coaching staffs have agreed to not share any of that. So I've tried to get some info out of people, hoping that I could still do that at some point. But what I can pass along is that, look, I think SMU played an Oklahoma State team that you could tell, under Mike Boynton, things are really shaping up to be, really good for them this season. And from what I've heard, at least Oklahoma State did win for the most part, but they played 2 games from what I understand. SMU lost the first one, and the second one, they came back and won or kind of took control of that second one. Again, these things are kind of murky, and since you don't really get, unless you're sitting there looking at the stat sheet with everything that actually happened, it's really tough to get people to kind of give you the reality of it, give you a true feel for it. But working on getting some takeaways on where the SMU team is after that scrimmage, now that they've been able to go against another college team. I will say this, one source did tell me this is the earliest scrimmage that they've ever been a part of. So it really gives SMU a lot of time to take some things from that first scrimmage and apply them as they get into practice, churning ahead towards the opening of their season. And so that is kind of, I guess, an interesting note and a little bit of a positive one, just because you do get that first look as a new team with a new coaching staff, under your belt and able to kind of address some things that may have happened in practice and really work with the guys on that front. So I did think that note was interesting. Let's start off with Rob Lanier. It's kind of funny, you talk about an off season and when you come in as a new coaching staff, and look, we dealt with this with Rhett Lashley and how he had to hit the ground running. Same with Rob Lanier, had to build back up the roster, had to recruit guys back. And, he did that and did it well. And he feels like he has a good team. Yeah. I mean, I think he does, a team that he likes the setup of it. In terms of regrets, I think I asked him this, but I said, is there anything you would go back and maybe change? And quite honestly, it was refreshing to get such an honest answer from him. And the first thing he said was, I really wish we would have, gotten a true point guard. And I think there are a couple ways to take that, right? We've seen SMU in the past, and you've seen other teams, and I've covered other teams that didn't necessarily have a true point guard in terms of like a Kendrick Davis, a Nick Moore, that can really make a team go. This year, it kind of sounds like they're going to have more of a combo guard approach. Zurich Phelps, who we'll get to him a little bit more in depth in a minute, but he was really impressive with just, I think, his maturity, his confidence that he's had since this coaching staff took over. You could tell he's now in a college, weight program for a second year. He looked noticeably bigger. But in terms of point guards, SMU isn't going to have a true one this year. Rob Lanier said anywhere from Zurich Phelps to Sam Williamson to Jefferson Coulibaly, the transfer from Washington State, could run the point. Zach Nuttall could see some time. Ricardo Wright could see some time. But you could tell it's definitely more of a combo guard approach this season. And so how does that work? We'll have to see. Credit to, a couple of our, on the Pony Express posters for posting some takeaways from the open practice. Again, it was there were some, differences in opinion on some certain things, but I think for the most part, you saw a team that certainly has a ton of size, a ton of length to it that we haven't seen around here in a bit. They do have some good athleticism on the team. I think the one thing I'm interested in with this team and how they have their starting five, how they rotate, is from what I've heard, this coaching staff really makes you earn every bit of it and earn it in practicing well and performing well. And so I think there's going to be some surprises in this lineup. I think you can look at it and say, all right, Zurich Phelps, Samuel Williamson, those two guys are probably shoo-ins to start. From there, you look at Zach Nuttall's leadership. I would have to imagine he's on the floor then too. And then I think SMU is going to find a way to get two trees out there, whether it's Mo and G, whether it's FAODG, whether it's Xavier Foster. Obviously, Franklin Aguane is back. He's a big man. It's going to be interesting to see how they do this rotation with so many new faces and trying to establish a culture of really playing hard. That's what stood out to me from talking with different people about how this team is set up. Is they don't necessarily have, I think, these guys that we've seen from SMU in the past that are, I think, game breakers. I think Samuel Williamson has the potential to do that. And I think it'll be very interesting to see how his season goes. But they're very, very high on what he's brought to SMU in terms of leadership, in terms of playing hard, in terms of fixing his shot a little bit. That was something that, Zach and Zurich and Sam really kind of, I think for the most part, kind of all pointed to is they've really worked on some of their fundamentals that's going to allow them to be better basketball players. Stefan Todorovic can shoot the lights out. We all know that. He's going to have to continue to come along on the defensive end. I think the sleeper in terms of having a breakout season, though, might be Jalen Smith, the sophomore guard who came in last year. He was rail thin. He's bigger now. He's played another year. He plays really, really hard. And I think that stands out about him. And then you look at Xavier Foster and Mo and G, two guys that stand around 6'11", both kind of on opposite ends of their journeys. Mo steps up a level in competition, was very good at Eastern Michigan. Xavier Foster's certainly talented, a former 4-star prospect, comes over from Iowa State. And I think he has, a good edge to him that he's going to bring to the table. Those guys are going to be, I think, real keys in this team being solid or just kind of middle of the pack in general. And I think SMU was picked to finish 7th in the AAC poll, or being great. If they take those steps forward, those can really be guys that, make a huge difference for SMU in terms of where their season goes. FAODG coming over from Troy, a Houston native playing his final year of college basketball in the state of Texas. He's been as expected. He's been very good. Somebody who really, I think has all the tools to really step in and be a contributor. Another one that's going to be interesting is Keon Ambrose Hilton. He comes over from Alabama, another 4-star prospect, coming out of high school, who just, hadn't really put it together for the most part. So, he kind of got some run here or there, was kind of, buried a little bit behind some depth at Alabama. Those are guys that I'm going to be interested to see how things go. I think Rob Lanier has really instilled in this team, and from talking with the players, they kind of back this up. If you play hard, play defense, and rebound, and you play the entire length of the floor hard, you're going to see time. And he would almost rather take the lumps of playing with guys that play harder and maybe aren't as talented, maybe can't do as many things consistently well, if they're going to, be able to, or if they're going to put guys out there who aren't going to do the things right. Rob Lanier is very, very, keen on that. And I think having his coaching staff, for the most part, from Georgia State intact was very important to him in developing that level of consistency that he wants out of his players day in, day out. From the strength and conditioning program to the ops guys to the assistant coaches, they're on the same page as far as what they want to bring every day and how they want to implement what they want defensively, offensively, culture wise. Defensively, SMU is going to guard the length of the floor. But I think, and this was back from a little bit ago when I was able to observe a practice, they're going to be also smart about it in the half court. Sometimes we saw SMU overextend and not, play just smart fundamental defense. And we saw that for years. This is really a team that they're honing in on the little things in terms of how you defend, how you can save yourself a little bit of not effort, but effort, and getting lost in certain situations. They really coach defense hard, and they work on getting a ton of shots up and working on with those guys on those shots. So I really like, the way media day, went. It is just media day. It's talking season, but I think this is a style of program that they're trying to implement that SMU fans have really kind of wanted for years now. I don't know if they're going to be this team that gets into the tourney year one. I don't know if they're going to make a run in the AAC tournament, but I think for the most part, you're going to see a consistent effort up and down the floor every night, and they really want to play hard. And some of the guys that have come in, like Samuel Williamson, are going to be key to that. He's done just about everything they've asked of him. He knows this is kind of a final, job interview for him in terms of getting to the next level. And I think we're going to see a really good player in Samuel Williamson on this SMU team this year. Zurich Phelps is a guy that I'm really excited about. He's very mature. He's tough. He's physically ready. I think this could be a coming out party for him. He's talked a lot about the consistency of his shot improving. That's something that I'm interested to see put to the test when the bullets start flying in live games. But he was probably the one that I sat there and said, all right, you kind of look at some of these guys. Like I remember when Sterling Brown and Ben Moore got older, and you really could see the switch flip for them. It looks like it's trending that way for Zurich Phelps from talking with him, from talking with sources about how he's performed. So he's not going to be a game breaker. He's not going to be Kendrick Davis. I don't think he's going to be able to fill it up like Kendrick did for SMU, but he's going to be steady. If he can stay healthy, which he feels a lot better about his body overall, that'll be key. That's going to be, where he's able to carry the load, shoulder the load of playing as much basketball as he's going to be playing, this upcoming season compared to last season, especially. So with that kind of wraps up some of the takeaways on SMU basketball. I think it's a team that probably is going to be middle of the pack. It's all depending on how some of these key players that are maybe younger that they brought up, like a Mo and G, like a Jalen Smith, how do they develop? How do they, take that next step in their game? And how does that impact SMU overall? It can only be good things if they really take that next step. And, it's just a team that we're going to have to see how it plays out. I mean, that's kind of a cop out, but it is. SMU just doesn't necessarily have any of the game breakers. So they could end up just being kind of a solid team with a little bit of a deep bench. But will they have the game breakers that when they need somebody to take over a game, when everyone is struggling, who will they turn to? Samuel Williamson's got to be that guy. Zurich Phelps has to be that guy. FAODG has to be that guy in the front court. So I'm excited for SMU basketball to get underway. It's a fresh start, fresh program. And I can tell they've worked really, really hard on this, season to put it all together and see where it goes. We'll try to get more updates on the next secret scrimmage when that happens. So stay tuned for that. Quick recruiting note. 2025 Duncanville shooting guard Caden Edwards will take an unofficial visit to SMU this weekend. Already has Texas, Texas State, Kansas State, Texas Tech, TCU offers. So prospect right down the road will check out SMU this weekend. He'll also visit Texas Tech to cap this month, and then Arkansas later on as well. So that's the basketball portion of the podcast. I am going to be out at Denton Guyer versus Allen Thursday night. So a lot of fresh SMU prospects there. Willie Goodacre, Keon Sibley, other prospects as well on both sides of that one. I'll also be out at Arlington Martin and Grand Prairie on Friday night watching some more prospects. Who knows? SMU could enter the mix with some of those guys. But SMU staff has been handing out some new offers, and I wanted to kind of break down some of those on the football side of things. And I want to start with a 2025 offer who I just saw earlier this month, plays with SMU quarterback commit Keldrick Luster over at McKinney, and that's Riley Pettyjohn. He's kind of a box linebacker, little skinny right now, so I expect him to put on some weight over the course of his career and add to some of that size that he's got. He's got some good length to him. SMU's his first offer, so SMU getting on the board early with him. I like this offer. He plays in a loaded secondary with Xavier Filisami, who's an SMU target, kind of a higher end, now top 100 prospect, 4-on-3 in the latest recruiting rankings update that we just dropped for the On 300. I was very impressed with him. Played well when I saw him against Denton Braswell. So Riley Pettyjohn, latest 2025 offer to get handed out by SMU. And then Johan Cardenas out of Houston, another really impressive prospect who On 3 has in the top 100 overall prospects in the 2024 class. He's been tearing it up this season down there in Houston playing for St. Thomas. SMU's had him on campus a couple times now, and he really likes the program. Very high on SMU. You can check out his reaction to the offer on theponyexpress.com. Check out the site for 7 days for free. It is homecoming week. There are going to be a recruiting bunch of recruiting visitors on campus. We've got a lot of offers. We're recapping and sharing those thoughts on this one, though. If you're looking at a high-end prospect who could end up going SMU's way, just kind of an early one here, but Johan Cardenas isn't a bad bet. If you wanted to pick a 4-star out of next cycle that SMU really has a good shot with, so far they're doing a really good job recruiting Johan Cardenas, and he really, really liked the offer. So kudos to Keenan Hall for jumping on him, and we'll see where it goes. I'm sure he'll pick up more offers, but a really talented prospect who added an offer from SMU. They weren't done in the 2024 class at running back. They also offered Frisco Centennial running back Harry Stewart. He is a fringe 4-star, on the verge of being a 4-star prospect for On 3. He's a four-star prospect on the On 3 consensus. He already has offers from Baylor, Cal, Baylor, Cal, and Texas A&M in addition to SMU. So he's starting to pick up some recruiting steam. He's been playing well for Centennial. We're starting to see a good number of 2024 offers go out, which isn't too surprising based on where junior tape is for a lot of these prospects. And we'll see more go out as the season unfolds. But those are a few to highlight right now. And then quickly, I wanted to cap it with talking about SMU defensive back Jayden Lawton stepping away from the team with plans to redshirt and transfer. He is a true freshman on this team. And look, I was surprised by this one. I don't think this is the right move for Jayden Lawton. He was somebody that very early on in camp was getting a lot of buzz as far as potentially playing in the 2 deep. And, if you're Jayden Lawton, I just don't get why you do this and do this now. I spoke with a couple sources who are close to him, and it's not tampering. It's people telling him, hey, this might be a good spot for you. But those people have no idea what they're talking about. And this is a guy that had SMU, Ohio, and someone else out of high school. He's new to playing football still. He inks with SMU, had a good playoff run, that ended, against South Oak Cliff, one of the best teams, to really come through Texas in a minute. They win state, but he's so raw, physically is ready to go. And he steps away from SMU. He's losing out on a month and a half of practice. He's losing out on practice tape. If you wanted to transfer, just wait until the end of the season. Instead, he hears that, oh, you should be playing up a level. Well, why? He couldn't break through the two deep in the end and only had a couple offers coming out of high school. What makes you think you're going to be able to make this jump? It's just the unfortunate part of the transfer portal and where we're at with college football and some people that advise these players. We've seen the SMU secondary improve. They've had their lapses, don't get me wrong, and they're not perfect. They're a middle of the road secondary that is good at avoiding a lot of big plays. They really are. And some of those big plays that they've given up have been on that jet flip. That's kind of if the quarterback hands it off instead, it's considered a run. But this is just a team that has gotten better in the secondary. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about it. And it's just weird. The whole thing is weird. Him and AJ Davis are going to play a lot next year when Armani Johnson is gone. And it's just a weird time to do it. And that's kind of my take on it. It just doesn't make sense to me, but to each their own. Wish him the best. He's a good kid. But I just think it's unfortunate that some of these kids get some advice that, could really impact them in a massive way down the line for their college careers and the rest of their life. He's a guy that could have stayed local at SMU and gotten a degree and, probably played a lot in the back half of his career or even next year. And instead he's on the move, not even a couple months into a couple months into the season. So best of luck to him. That opens it up a little bit more for AJ Davis to get more reps. And he's got a bright future, I think, especially at SMU. So with that, guys, going to shut it down. We'll preview Cincinnati on the next edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. And we'll talk with Brandon Sejo about the Bearcats as well. That'll drop either late Thursday or Friday morning for you guys. So you guys can obviously check that out as you guys are preparing to celebrate homecoming at SMU, an early 11 a.m. kick inside Ford Stadium. We will have it covered for you guys. Appreciate all you guys who have subscribed and given us so much positive feedback on the podcast and adding YouTube to it. Please, if you know SMU buddies of yours that haven't subscribed to the YouTube page, it is free. You can unsubscribe from notifications if you want, but please hit that subscribe button on our YouTube page. We really need it and need your help spreading the word about the podcast. So hope you guys enjoyed this edition of the pod, and we will catch you guys on Friday. Or maybe late Thursday with another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. Thank you guys for subscribing to the site as well. OnThePonyExpress.com, a part of On3. You can try free for 7 days and still get a free Founders Club hat. So check that out when you guys can. And again, enjoy homecoming this weekend. We'll talk again on Friday. So thanks for listening and have a good rest of the week.